Hi, my name is Savannah Solers, and this is my presentation for my venous limb gangrene case. And on the front page, here is a picture of venous gangrene. Alright, the backstory. The case that I chose had a 42-year-old Chinese man who was brought in, I think it said for like a car wreck or something like that, and he had polytraumas, which are multiple traumas. He had a head trauma, he had bruised lungs, and a right femur fracture, which is a fracture in the bone of his upper thigh. He underwent a craniotomy to relieve the pressure on his brain, and he had a debridement of the right thigh. He developed intraoperative hypotension, and he had the short-term need of vasopressors, which was to kind of constrict the blood flow so he wouldn't bleed out from his external injuries. But he also had liver that was in possible shock. So all of those combined is really just a recipe for disaster. The diagnosis was about day 5 post-op. He developed an acute platelet count, which had revealed to drop significantly, and it had dropped from 559 in the blood draw to about 250. And platelets are the things that help the blood clot, so it had dropped significantly. And it was from left iliofemoral deep vein thrombosis, which is in his veins in his left femur, like up near his pelvis, were developing clots, which were breaking off and going down into his legs. His lower limb, he had lower limb ischemic necrosis develop, which was discovered through visual examination because the skin starts to die off and become black or gray or even like a dark, almost bruising purple. He was diagnosed with venous limb gangrene, which is dying tissue due to a clot cutting off the blood flow, which again, like I said before, was because he was on vasopressors, which were constricting his blood vessels, and clots were forming a lot more easily in his legs, which were cutting off the blood flow. The aftermath. Lower limb ischemic necrosis, which again is his lower limbs, which are his legs, started to rot or die. It led to too much tissue dying, resulting in 2 amputations. One was below the knee amputation on his left leg, just complete, had to remove that because it was dying too much. It had progressed up to almost his knee, and they had to cut it off to make sure that it wouldn't the dying tissue wouldn't continue to going up and up. He also had a transmetatarsal amputation, which is the toes and part of his foot on his right foot. Deep vein thrombosis is known to localize microthrombosis, which are small clots, which are a lot harder to find and spot in any scans or like any blood tests. This resulted in an ischemic injury, which is injury caused by restricted blood flow. In other words, it's your body kind of hurting itself because the clots are forming and are getting stuck in the legs and just cause it to rot. The cut-off blood flow of his leg and foot resulted in the tissue dying off completely, as I had said before. In conclusion, this car wreck that he'd gotten into had cut his leg open, along with breaking it. And that had developed into an almost rotting, but it was in the early stages, so the doctors didn't know it was happening. But by that point, they had already had him on the vasopressors, which that, combined with his platelet count dropping and his liver going into shock, was really just a recipe for disaster, as I had said before.